Hi there, it's Peter from Romford Horror Film Festival here, and I'm delighted to be joined by the filmmakers of The Magpie. So we have Oliver Steele, who's the director and co-writer, Oliver, and Becki Pantling, who is the lead actress and producer of the film. Thanks so much for joining me, guys.
Lovely to be here, absolutely perfect.
So we've just seen the film in the festival. How was it experiencing your film here at Romford Horror?
I must say it was the first time we'd actually seen it on the big screen.
Oh, amazing.
So it was really quite an experience. You know, you watch the audience all sort of react in different ways to it. And I must say it was quite gratifying actually. It was really a real pleasure to see everybody respond so well to it.
Brilliant.
Yeah, because obviously having a film come out during the pandemic meant it's been an unusually long wait for us to see it in that kind of format, so it's just been particularly special because after months of waiting, for me this is actually my first time back in a cinema since all of this has happened. Okay. So to be honest, it felt like a massive honour actually to have our film kind of here and be able to do that today.
Yeah, it's an odd experience going back to the cinema for the first time in a while and having your own film being the first one you've seen.
Which, wow. That's really great you can get to experience that. Good to hear. Right, so The Magpie. Tell us a bit about the premise as the co-writer, Oliver. Tell us what's it about, The Magpie?
So the basic premise of the story is it's a young woman. She goes into the woods seeking treasure and with a metal detector trying to find any goods that she can, whereas she comes across a creature who is also looking for very similar prize, and of course the two come into conflict.
Sure, it's a great premise, first of all. What was your inspiration behind it? What kind of, did you have is it an idea that's been brewing with you for a while, or did it come quickly?
It came quite quickly, to be honest. It came out of a conversation that we were having at one point, like, I'd love to get behind the camera and make another movie, bounce some ideas back and forth pretty soon. That one came up. I mean, it was one of those sorts of things we always knew we wanted to make a sort of a horror, sort of monsters sort of movie. And that was one of the first ideas really that actually came out, and we thought actually that's sticky, we're remembering that. So really there's clearly some good elements to it. Of course, the movie itself is with inspirations and stuff comes out of all the slightly 80s monster movie styles and all that sort of stuff, which we really enjoy.
Yeah, what were some of the examples of some of the films maybe that influenced you?
Well, if you go into movies, I suppose there's a lot of different elements from a lot of different things. So I suppose you've got the whole almost locked in a location horror movie as akin to things like Alien and stuff like that. But of course you've got those sort of more, I suppose, Aliens and Predator really with the sort of vision stuff that we looked into as well stylistically. But we wanted to not just do that. We wanted to sort of take some of those ideas with the point of view ideas, spin them on a little bit into something that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, as the jury team, we obviously spoke about the film and we got sort of the Predator kind of thing from that, so that's great. Whereabouts did you shoot the film? The location is like a forest, isn't it? So whereabouts was this?
So it was up near Norwich.
Okay.
So we know another filmmaking team who are based up there called Evil Empire, who are also very into they love their horror, they particularly love kind of B-movies and splatter. So they've been setting up this area of woodland that's basically attached to where they live. As basically a site for them to film in. And so they'd actually cleared out these amazing areas of land where you're in the middle of some quite overgrown forest. It's very atmospheric, but they've got these kind of little clearings going on in it where you can actually get in with a camera, shoot some really cool stuff. But you're actually not really in the middle of nowhere, it just feels like it. So to be honest, we're entirely beholden to them for how cool a lot of it was, because they'd already put in the legwork to make these really cool little locations that we could then kind of tuck ourselves in with the camera and get some really amazing stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, all we had to do really was, I suppose, bring the setting, set dressing and all the sort of items that would go in there. So other than that, it's a big team effort. It was really lovely.
Yeah, that's really interesting because you start with quite a drone shot, right?
Yes.
Before I knew you guys were UK based, I actually assumed it was like in America. It's the kind of grand forest that you get in the States.
Yes.
So it's really a testament to how you filmed this, that it makes it look like a huge kind of...
It's one of the things I tried to go for as much as possible was it's a very, very low budget movie, it's only a few £100 that we had to make it.
Really?
But I tried as best I could to try and get as big a scope to it as possible. I think it's actually paid off quite nicely, it's all come together.
Definitely. So you mentioned it's a low budget. How did you go about funding the film?
and then we basically scraped it together. So essentially, we've worked together for quite a while, actually, doing quite a few different shorts and various things. And it's always been a case of basically get out there, work, save up some money. When we've got enough together that we've got a budget, we go, right, brilliant, this is the pot. What can we do with the pot? And so the Magpie was another lovely one where it was a case of going, right, we know that, you know, you wanted to film outside, we wanted to get the forest, we wanted to do these things, we'd had the idea for the set dressing. And it was about how can you squeeze every single pound that we've got. So there was so much begging and borrowing. I mean, the little kind of tunnel that we built for the ending sequence is literally from a dismantled shed. It was like recycle everything you can use. And so
I mean, there wasn't really, surprisingly, any money spent on set dressing at all. It was all okay. So what have we got? Who we steal from?
Stealed.
You know, in the way that they'll be giving from to us. So it was. I think, to be honest, the main budget was food and paying people's travel expenses and things like that.
Okay. I mean, amazing work on that kind of budget. Incredible. I was going to ask about the shoot itself. So how many days did it take?
So it was a long weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But then we also did do some pickups. So to get the bigger shots, like obviously the forest was done with a drone at a separate time. Because of course when you try, I mean, there's actually a lot to pack in a long weekend when you're doing so much that's actually outdoors in particular, because you're just, the sunlight is everything. So yeah, it was busy getting it done.
I think the main bulk of film was shot probably, I think it was 2 or 3 days, no more than that. And I think we just did a bunch of pickup shoots, like the scale shot and a couple of bits for the opening on a separate day, on a separate weekend. But other than that, it was just a couple of days long.
So question for Becky, what was it like filming, you might have to tell me the sort of behind the scenes bit here. How was it? What was it like filming opposite an 8-foot magpie? Was there actually an 8-foot magpie there? How did?
Yeah, so it is a real person in a costume. But what was very strange for me is that the amazing woman in the costume is Samantha Theobald-Rowe, who I have known for absolutely years. She's one of my all-time favourite people, and so having her suddenly as this terrifying monster was just like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And I remember they took her away on set on the day to basically put final touches on her look. So she's in the suit and the kind of shaggy pieces of fur and the face piece and everything, and they go away and just finish off touching her up with all these bits of mud and twig, and they're kind of rolling around in the dirt. And when she came back, you know, and you just get that feeling, and you're like, oh yeah. There it is. That's the look, and it was just great because it's such a transformation, and she's so good with her body, the way that she moves, and it just completely brought it to life for me. It was really nice being able to do that with her.
Little behind the scenes facts. Well, she's not 8 foot tall.
No.
So the fact that she's been able to create that illusion, I think, is once again a testament.
Definitely. I mean, if that character, if you like, didn't work, the film wouldn't work. I think.
No, exactly.
So that sort of body language is really important.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about what was your biggest challenge on the set itself?
On the set itself, I think, to be honest, the shoot went pretty smoothly. I think the biggest, I suppose, physical challenge would have been for you, what with going in the river and the water and the temperature at the time we were shooting.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
I think that was probably, I remember getting quite cold. And I always want to do another take.
It was definitely foil blanket time at the end of the sequence there, because it's actually so where that piece of water is, it's a sort of stagnant piece of a river that's been kind of cut off from the main flow. So it's actually quite good for shooting in, because you're not in a current, you're not kind of out in the main body itself. So as a set, brilliant. But obviously the one thing that's not designed for purpose is that the floor is completely different levels when you go inside. So there was always a real risk of when we did that shot, am I going to come out waist level? Am I going to go shoulder level? I don't know.
And we have to hit continuity to bear in mind with water level, so we have to be very careful. But the other thing, of course, is being under a tree, you've got all these branches and roots that are under the water and sticking out. So you're playing a little bit of an obstacle course underneath, you have to plot your course through.
So we had a good scout of it earlier, which was great because it gave me a chance to like get into the water before we were kind of in the costume. But it's definitely that feeling of, even though you've walked it before and you kind of know where all the bits are, you know where the stuff is, you're just thinking, yeah, if I go in, this is you know, this is going to be a continuity nightmare. So it was interesting.
Not to mention, you could get rid of it.
So are you guys planning on working together again in the future?
I'm sure there'll be some sort of project that, obviously what with pandemic and stuff, a few things have been discussed but put on hold and stuff, so we'll have to sort of see where things go from there. But yeah, I think overall, the shoot went pretty smoothly. There's a lot of work that we had to do in post-production of that film as well.
Okay.
I think that there's a lot of work with the sound and the sound design of that.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah.
We all thought, again, the sound was really, really impressive. Can you tell me a bit about that? Did you do it yourself? Did you get someone in there?
So I worked with a bunch of people that I really love working with, to be honest, the rest of my team. So we have, firstly, the editor, Joe French, who was spent a lot of time really working with me and bouncing a lot of ideas back on the sound design, to really try and bring that, not only the creature to life, but really the wood itself as well. Of course, once we placed all the pieces of sound, you've got the sound mixer, Alan Salabank, who did a phenomenal job of really sort of making the world feel much larger than some of its parts. And of course, you've got the music team, which goes with it, so Simon French as well did a fantastic job with that. Really proud of all three of them, to be honest. Along with obviously the rest of the production cast and crew too.
Yeah, brilliant. It was a great job, really great piece of work. In terms of this film, are you planning to show it at other festivals? What's the life now for this film? Or are you finished on the run? It's just kind of getting going now. Obviously, we've had the really strange timing of it coming out during all of this, when of course so many screenings have had to be postponed and things have been changing. So we're in the slightly nice position actually, where it's just kind of beginning its journey. It's kind of ramping up. We've kind of got it entered in a lot of places. We've been lucky enough to also be able to share it with some people online through a couple of online festivals, which has been really nice. Basically, hopefully, come kind of especially around obviously Halloween time, when there are just so many wonderful horror festivals out there, we're really hoping that the Magpie is going to have a cracking year. Yeah, brilliant. I think it deserves to do really well. Final question to one of you each. What's your favourite horror film? Or if there was a horror film that you could recommend that not enough people maybe know about, give it a shout. Becki, do you want to go first? Okay, so it's interesting because now you've said the second part of the question, I'm like, do I need to change my recommendation? Because if it's something that people might not have seen, then actually I might recommend, I know maybe a lot of people have seen this by now, but One Cut of the Dead. Oh, it's a great film. I just love it. And I mean, obviously, with us having just said everything we said about indie filmmaking and doing it on a wing and a prayer, I mean, it's a love letter to that. And I had no idea what I was in for when I first saw it, which is why I'm basically going to say nothing about what it is, because that's why I loved it. I knew nothing, I went in and I had a cracking time. So, One Cut of the Dead. I recommended it to a friend just last week and I said, don't read anything about it. It's a really great film. Oliver?
Talking about movies that maybe more people should have seen, or I'm one of those people who loves a lot of films with sort of film history, so sort of going quite a way back. So really, I'm a massive fan of Italian horror, in particular like movies by directors like Mario Bava, for example. Things like Black Sabbath. There's a pretty little film there called The Telephone at the beginning, which I think is excellent. I think more people should look back to look forward as well, I think.
Great recommendation. Guys, thank you so much for joining us and for coming and for letting us show your film here.
That's really appreciate it. Thank you.